Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We are really excited today. We are having another episode of On Friendship, and this is the series where me and friendship expert Alysa Lucas are here to talk about a Hallmark or Hallmark-like movie from from the perspective of relationships and from friendship. It's a lot of fun, and I'm film critic Rachel Wagner. Alysa Lucas is here.
Hello, is this number 27?
I was wrong last time I said it was our 25th, but it was actually our 26th. So this time is actually our 27th.
We're just having too much fun. Who can keep count, Rachel? How can we be expected to keep count of having fun?
It's true. It seems like we've been doing it forever. It's like, was there a point where we didn't do On Friendship every month? I guess so.
The only time is December.
Right.
There's no time in December for friendship when there's how many Christmas movies?
125 that I reviewed this year.
That's amazing.
It was intense. Yeah.
I bet.
But for this episode, I'm really excited. We are talking about a film from this last season. It is The Christmas Promise. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you remember when you were doing your presentation for the best Hallmark moment.
Yes.
One of the nominees on that presentation was for The Christmas Promise, and I think it should have won personally, but the voters felt differently.
Wait, which moment was it? Now I'm like,
it's the question mark or an exclamation point, and we're going to talk more about it because I think that is just absolutely brilliant.
I do remember doing that. That's hilarious, but I had no clue that was the movie, and I think we had already decided at that point what the movie was going to be too, and I didn't pick up what you were putting down. I love how there's all these connections.
So how have you been? Did you have a good February, March?
Well, it's a great March, Rachel, because we are on spring break. But by the time that everyone hears this episode, I'll be back to work. So, wah, wah. But yes, I love spring break, and I don't go anywhere. I do like for the shorter breaks for school that I have as a professor to be more of like staycations and sort of do mini projects at home, watch TV shows and movies and, podcasting. And then I might do a little things towards work, but I just like staying home and lounging on the couch.
Yeah, that's very relaxing. I am with you there.
It is, yes.
I did have a fun trip. I went out to LA for the Hollywood Critics Association Awards ceremony.
Yes.
And it was pretty cool. Fun to get all dressed up, but then also there were a lot of famous people. I didn't really get to meet any of them, but they were in the room.
Did you see famous people?
I saw famous people. Yeah. You know how much I love Tick Tick Boom, and they had a whole Tick Tick Boom table with the entire cast.
Did you freak out?
I pretty much did.
You're like, the table's nowhere near the bathroom, and somehow Rachel figures out how to get up and go by that table to the bathroom 73 times in a night. Or at least that's what I would have done.
I wish I had figured out a way to meet them, because Andrew Garfield was there, and
amazing.
It was,
and I know how much you love that movie, so that must have been really cool.
I got to, in the program, they had little essays that each of the members got to write, and mine was why I love Tick Tick Boom. So I was like,
you read it. You didn't get to talk to any of them?
No, I wish I did, because everything just kind of, because we went late, and then everything just kind of dispersed. There wasn't really any mingling time, and so I didn't get a chance, but
that's
nevertheless,
so cool,
it was still really cool. It was fun.
What a great moment, even if you might have wanted a little bit more of the moment, but to be able to write the essay and then see everyone there and that sort of thing, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was really special, and it just felt like a payoff day for all the hard work I've
absolutely
put into my career. To have a day.
Yes, you've earned it. Yeah.
But I'm really excited to talk about this movie. I thought that this movie was very strong. It was my second favorite Hallmark movie.
Out of the 125, it was number 2?
Yeah.
What will it be when we do our rankings next year of the movies that we talk about for On Friendship? Should be
pretty
interesting.
High. So there were 42 Hallmark movies.
Mm-hmm.
This was on the Movies and Mysteries: The Miracles of Christmas, so it's one of the more emotional ones.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my second favorite total of all Hallmark movies.
Wow.
And we'll probably do my first favorite eventually.
Ooh, interesting. Don't tell me what it is yet. I want to be surprised.
But I know I thought this movie was extremely well written, well done. I really enjoyed it, and it just seemed like a perfect film to pick for On Friendship because the friendship is so key to this movie.
Yeah.
The gatherings, the support, the everything. And I'm really excited because I did an interview that has yet to air. We'll see if it will be by the time this airs, with the writer Kathy Cloves. So that was really fun to get to talk with her. I think she did a great job in this film. And the little summary is: a woman whose fiance is killed during the Christmas season gets to know the carpenter she hired to finish their new home so she can sell it. Meanwhile, a text she sent to her fiance's old number pouring out her grief is answered. So what did you overall think about it now that I've given that?
Well, first off, Rachel forgets to tell me which ones are going to be more emotional. In advance, I was like, he's gone? I was like, what? I was not, I don't read things before. I'm like, which movie are we watching? How do I get to said movie? And then I watch it. So it's good in that sense that I don't go in with any expectations, but I was like, a warning if I could have like, but I did really enjoy it. I did think that maybe there's probably a couple others that are slipping my mind right now, but I felt this is one of the most connected to friendship movies that we have watched for On Friendship. And for that, I appreciate that. I did enjoy it. As Rachel knows, I texted her and it was super windy when I was watching it. So it did a lot of buffering during it. So it's a 2-hour movie with the commercials. I fast forwarded through commercials the best I could, but it still probably took me over 2 hours to watch it.
Oh man, that sucks.
And I might have missed a couple moments because of that, so I just want to let people know in advance. Super windy. Thought I was going to lose my dog today during our walk.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy it. I think she has an interesting group of friends.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Good to talk about that. Well, there's so many different relationships within this movie that I think it's a really rich movie in that way. There's so many sort of balls in there that Kathy Close was sort of managing as because of course you have it starting out with the relationship between Tori DeVito's character and Nicole and her fiance Henry. And Henry's big dream was to run a toy store, and she loves making sweaters, like homemade sweaters, and and she seems like she is happy, perfectly content, it seems like, to be executing Henry's dream. And that is something that with a couple that sometimes that happens. Like you have to make choices about what you're going to do. And sometimes you can do both people's dreams. Sometimes you can't. And somebody else will kind of take a back seat and raise the kids or run, maybe just have their pursuit be a hobby, or each couple has to kind of figure that out for themselves. But it seemed like she was pretty happy.
I also think maybe they're focusing on his dream now and her dream will come later. Like, so it might not be that she never gets to fulfill her dreams. It might be, let's focus on the toy store now, and that builds customer base that might help me with the sweaters later, right? For example. So yeah, I absolutely think that is a negotiation and a discussion among partners and what works best for them. I do think that at some point everyone's dreams should see the sunshine and the light. But again, that's within the couple. And so, yeah, I kept going. So when are you just going to branch out and have your own sweaters, lady? Let's get it going.
Yeah.
Their sweaters were beautiful, whoever made them or wherever they purchased them from.
Yeah, I think a lot about, have you seen Julie and Julia?
It's been a long time.
Okay. Well, Julia Child and Paul, her husband, are such an incredible example of a married couple to me. And he basically became like a bureaucrat. And he was an artist, and he became a bureaucrat, and like her dream basically became his dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought that was, again, every couple is different. Every couple has different needs.
Yeah.
But I always thought that was such a beautiful example of love that he.
I also think you might not know that could be your dream until he met his wife, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that like it's a beautiful vision to be a part of. And yeah, absolutely.
Right. So,
absolutely.
Anyway, it kind of starts here, and they're building a new house. He sets up the mistletoe
Mm-hmm.
on the porch. And the thing I thought that was very difficult to pull off, and I was amazed that they did, is that there's great chemistry between her and Giles Panton, who plays Henry.
Mm-hmm.
And there's great chemistry between her and Dylan Bruce.
Which
And that
really
is
makes
tough.
it work. And that's what makes the story work, right?
Yeah.
Is that she lost a partner and maybe she wasn't ready for it, but then here's a potential new partner. And you can see why she would go with a new partner, right? And I think that's important to see as well.
Because most Hallmark movies or movies of this nature, usually the other man is a bad man of business or somebody that isn't right for whatever reason. Because it's a risky thing, because if we feel that she has better chemistry with Giles than Dylan, it creates a contrast that most movies don't have. And so it's a risky thing, but obviously in order for the story, that's what it had to be. But they could have like just sort of talked about it. They didn't necessarily need to show him.
Yeah.
And so I think that the fact that they pulled that off is very impressive. It says something to the actors.
Absolutely.
And so she has this group of friends, and particularly her friend Susan, played by Karen Holness, who has these parties and invites everybody. She has an ugly sweater party. She has a girls' night party, scavenger hunt. We talk about some different ones that she has, and she gathers her friends, and they have a white elephant exchange at one point. So it's a very tight group of friends, and I really liked Matthew James Dowden, who played one of her friends, and then that's like basically a platonic male friend of hers. That when she is really sad about everything, she goes over to his house. Again, you don't see that as much in these movies.
Or other movies, to be perfectly honest. Right? There's true. Always a possibility or something's not appropriate, and it's like, no, I'm pretty sure men and women can be friends. Like they're a group of friends. Like there's a reason why they're all together, and so that I really appreciated about the movie.
Yeah. And basically, Susan finds a way for her to win every contest.
Yeah. Okay, Susan, bless your heart, because you must be super fun and charming, because that would get old. Because like even one of the parties, the prize for the first place for the ugly sweater was like a cheese cutting board or something like that, and it had already been engraved to her. Before the votes were in, she had it engraved for herself. Now, that I could see getting a little grading to people, where it's like, other people have to win sometimes, Susan. Yeah. However, in her defense, she did have the ugliest sweaters in every ugly sweater party that was in the movie.
The only thing about this group of friends that is a little bit harder to believe, is it does feel like a group that's younger, because I don't know, it's just so much harder to have these kinds of friendship groups when you're older and people have kids that they need to find sitters for. And I don't know. I just feel like every party in reality for an older group would have like a different. There'd be like, oh, so and so could make this one, but they couldn't make this one, and then this one couldn't make this one, and so you kind of have like a different group each party.
Yeah, I think that one of the vibes I get, and certainly I am open to being incorrect, or people not being happy with this. But one of the things that I also see with that is they're in such a small town, like they are all the people the same age, and they have yet to have kids, and so they can all make it.
Yeah. Unlikely by the time they're in their 30s,
Well,
most
people
people.
are getting married and having kids later in life, so I
Yeah.
mean,
But that's a very ridiculous nitpick. I mean, I felt like I bought that these people were friends and this was a friend
I
group.
did. It didn't always, like, sometimes when I watch movies and the people they're friends with, I'm like, is it because there's no one else? But like this did feel like I just was like, Susan, you need to was it Alan? You need to let Alan win 1 year. Like, give Alan a solid, right? Like, he just wants to win one of your amazing gifts. And I think what would have been really funny is like if he was like, hey, this is already engraved, and she's like, yeah, but check the name, and she engraved it for him. That would have been cute.
Yeah, that would have been cute.
So Susan, I just need you to bring it down like 3 notches at least, and let Alan win once.
We do have interviews on the pod with Giles Panton, not particularly for this movie, but just in the past.
In
Karen
general.
Holness, we did get her just after this movie. And then and Matthew James Dowden, and he's one of my favorite interviews, actually. He's great.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I mean, they were all great, but he is really an interesting person. He's kind of done everything in his life. So it's really cool.
Yeah, that's always fun to talk to someone who's had those kinds of experiences.
Yeah. Like that beer commercial, the most interesting man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Giles / Henry. So Henry says, I will go get ice.
No.
I'll go out.
It's like a scary movie. I'll be right back. No, you won't.
And it turns out there's an accident and he dies in the accident.
It seriously took me a hot minute to be like, is this really happening? Because I didn't know it was one of the Christmas Miracle movies and it was going to be a downer. Thanks a lot. I was like, did that for real? And then like they don't necessarily like, it's implied, but I don't feel like they're like, we've lost him. Like I don't feel like there's a moment. And I was like, wait.
You just see her on the phone.
Is this a fever dream? I was like, what is happening? But then I was like, and then I went to commercial and then there was a commercial for the movie that we watched about the angel, like the more serious movie about she was the remake from
and the Mrs. Miracle.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and then I was like, oh, it's on this channel? I'm on to you, Rachel.
Yeah. So then we get the title card with a 1 year later.
Yes.
And do you think that was enough? Should they have made it 2 years?
I only do because like I think there would have been greater care from her friends around a first anniversary. And I'm saying that as someone who is not married and I have not lost a partner. That I plan to spend the rest of my life with. But I do think like, when he said, like, he was like, I figured it would be a tougher time at this time of year. And I'm like, buddy, it's the first anniversary. I think that would have still been pretty much a real like that, the first, right? Like the first birthday, the first anniversary of the accident. I think there should have maybe a little bit of greater care from the friends.
That in general, her friends were pretty supportive and trying to be tactful. But yeah, I do think it probably, just as far as her moving on and being ready, 2 years would have probably made more sense than 1 year, but it's certainly not a deal breaker or anything. But
yeah, I just think that like as a person who has lost someone, that like that first season or anniversary was just been really, really hard to even go to the ugly sweater party, to go to even think about the house. Like I think they highlight that by indicating that she won't go into the house that's being fixed up so that it can be sold. Like, she's not ready to go in the house. I mean, everyone grieves in a different way. People process things at different lengths. But I just think, like, overall, I would have thought 2 years would fit better.
Yeah, I think so. And Susan is in a tricky spot because it's tough, because do you invite her to the ugly sweater party? Do you not have the party? Or do you just do you not invite her, or invite her? Like, what do you do? And she is very, like, careful about the invitation, kind of just including her. You don't have to come, kind of a thing. And it would be tough. I mean, if that's the place where he left to go get ice, I don't know, man, that'd be tough.
I think what I might have enjoyed seeing, and not enjoy might not be the right word here, but would have maybe helped as well, is like maybe move it to 2 years, but have like that 1 year where it's like really tough, maybe a short montage scene, maybe like a minute or something like that, where it's like, them actually going through those, should we have the party? Is it better to have the party? And having those moments, like, I think it would be terrible not to invite her. Like, she is still friends with all of them. So for them not to include her, because what is she might be seen as like, oh, well, you're a downer because it's been a year since you lost, your partner. I think like a short montage where you could address those sort of things and have those friendship conversations and then come back a year later would have been cool.
Yeah, that probably would have been ideal. But
I felt... I'm also not a writer, so I'm just thinking of important friendship conversations.
Yeah.
Like that, those are the things we don't see that we need to see, because I don't think we're always ready for these events to happen in our lives, even if we were in Nicole's position, losing a partner, but being in the position of her friends and having our young friend lose a partner, I don't think we're prepared for those things. We might not know what to do, what to say, how to proceed, how to cope with our own loss with our friend. Like, I think there's a lot of layers there that would have been nice to see, because I don't think we're prepared for those, and we don't see those in media very often.
Yeah. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarkie in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
So her grandfather is played by Patrick Duffy, and she gets kind of concerned about him and him eating right and being kind of alone. And he tells her that when his wife died, her grandmother, that he wrote her a letter every day for a year. And this is what kind of inspires her to start texting, which I thought was a very cute idea. And
I really liked it. And can I just have an aside here, Rachel, and talk about how much I love Patrick Duffy? My mom's show was Dallas, and then I also watched the sitcom. Oh, what was that show called? The one with him and Suzanne Summers.
Step by Step.
Yes, thank you. So so when I saw Patrick Duffy, I was like, woo! And I do love the idea, like, for him writing the letters was appropriate, but what sort of fits with the technology that we have now, or what seems appropriate for what people might do now. And I thought that was a nice translation to say, like, texting the number might be safe, because I also wondered if, like, she had his phone somewhere. Right. Like, I feel like I have my old phones. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with these? Or I turn it back into iPhone when I get a new one. But when someone passes, like, like, I thought she might feel safe that she was just texting his phone that she would have, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a nice touch, but then I was like, oh yeah, the number goes to someone else. Dang it. But then it was cool that she then had this support from someone who was
Mm-hmm.
outside the situation. So she did have the support of her friends. And that was important and I think helpful to her. But I also think having an outsider in which to process grief with was very
Mm-hmm.
helpful to her in this movie.
Yeah, and the script I thought was very well done. It even gave little moments like when Patrick Duffy's character says that he misses going to the games
Mm-hmm.
with Henry.
Yeah.
And that kind of, when you feel it, like hurt her heart. Like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And there's so many things when you lose them. I mean, I've only lost like grandparents and things like that,
Yeah.
but still, you'll have like moments where, like, if I ever go into Nordstrom's, it makes me think of my grandma and how much I miss her.
Yeah,
It's just
absolutely.
random, but we used to have so much fun, going and shopping and talking, and there's just like little things like that that will make your heart hurt for a second because
Yeah,
you miss
I
them.
always think about Coke, like Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm.
My grandparents always were fully stocked with Cokes and Diet Cokes, and they always
Mm-hmm.
drank Coke. But so like when I have a Diet Coke, I think of them. But when I see someone drinking a regular Coke out of a can, I'm like, it's Kay and Kenneth. I love them.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I lost my best friend. She died in a car accident when we were in high school. And so there's just things that songs
Mm.
or places or and just driving around where I grew up because she lived around the corner for me. So yeah, there's all these little moments, and that was really the moment that I was fully like, okay, he is gone, is when Patrick Duffy said that, because I still was like, wait, for real?
Oh.
Like it did take me a longer time
Yeah.
because I'm not used to this
Mm-hmm.
style of movie. I've only seen a couple other ones,
Yeah.
Really, what do you suggest that we watch? That's what I know. Or what I've watched with my mom, right? So that was the moment where, that's when I knew he was gone. And I think those moments are hard, but also helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Like reflecting on people,
Yeah.
telling stories, having those memories. Like there's so many funny stories. Allison was hilarious. She was literally a ray of sunshine, a little wild. And I just think like, what would it be like if she was still here today? But just also just thinking of all the good times that we had, watching
Yeah.
movies and things like that. So I think
Yeah.
it's important to do those.
Yeah. I mean, you love people. So you're gonna miss them. If you
Yeah,
didn't love them as much, you
absolutely.
wouldn't miss them. And then she she finds this ornament with Henry and Nicole written on it, and so she goes over to Alan's house, and he says, "You're my best friend, your family." And then she admits to him, "I'm mad at you. You said he would walk through the door anytime." Oh,
Mm-hmm. Tough.
so I thought that was a really honest moment.
And it's also like, but that's exactly what most people would say in the moment to make her feel okay, because she was worrying and most likely he was going to walk through that door. Right. And so, like, those are things that we do to say to people to make them feel better in the moment. But then
Sure.
we're not always right. And so, yeah, that's a tough moment where you're like, I wish I would have said anything else.
But I think
Ugh.
she knows that, like,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
empirically she knows that it's obviously not his fault.
Absolutely.
But I guess when you're going through the stages, you just look for anything, and then I also loved her sister in this. It's a small little role, but keep bringing her
Gail.
over casseroles. I just thought that was lovely because obviously, like, people can't be as present as they
Mm-hmm.
might be after the funerals and the first. They can't
Yeah.
be that way for forever.
Yeah.
But you also don't want to forget that it still hurts. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? If your friends have lost somebody, just because everyone else has seemingly moved on doesn't mean they've moved on.
Absolutely.
And so I just thought that was so lovely as her keep bringing up the casseroles.
The casseroles, oh my goodness. I was like, do you have enough freezers to fit all of them? But in addition to that, on a lighter note, Gail and Susan together are double trouble.
Yeah. Well, and I just loved when she said, I have been overwhelmed by worry.
Yeah.
Later on in the movie, she says, I have been overwhelmed by worry every day for this whole year. And I could just feel that. I thought that's
a good line too.
Well
written. What was the writer's name again?
Kathy Cloves. Way to go.
Yeah, that was a really nice line.
Yeah. Because I know how that worry, I know how that feels for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I thought that was great. And then this is when she first texts Henry. And she says, I didn't think that day at the house would be the last.
Mm-hmm.
And then she gets the response from the text, and he says, I also have had a great loss.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they start to kind of bond and everything. And I thought Dylan Bruce was great as Joe.
Is he Joe? Okay, yeah. I liked all the characters, like all the actors, and I did, like you said, the chemistry with Nicole, with both Henry and Joe, I thought was good. And like I liked that Joe was also a good guy like Henry, and not like you mentioned, like perhaps like the bad man of business, or pushing too hard or anything.
Yeah, he's so charming when he's like trying on the pirate hat and like trying to make her laugh, and he's the genie reading her fortune. That was just so charming.
And there was a lot of walking each other home, which I thought was nice too. And one of the things that I have to say is, because this is on friendship, and so we're looking at it through a friendship lens, is that ultimately it does start out like there is no, I mean, I kind of guess that's what was going to happen, but that's sort of my measure of a movie in terms of how much friendship is in it, right? Is there a lot of the movie where they are solely friends, or is it from the get-go that it's like it's sort of we're friends, but we're really not, because we're going to make it into this romantic relationship? And although I had an inkling of where it would go, I wasn't 100% sure because it was on the other channel.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure. And so I do enjoy that it is the walking and the jokes and things like that really seem to be about their working relationship and just being friendly with each other. Right. And that I can appreciate, because I think too often we are pushed into a romantic relationship very quickly, and in media and in life. And I, of course, as someone who loves a friendship, love to see the friendship actually happening. So
yeah,
that I did enjoy.
I loved her when they get to the party and her sister says, "Take my hand, I've got you." It was so lovely. I thought that was great. And she sees the kind of the dream of the flashback of Henry and putting on the ornament. And she sends the text, "Nothing will compare to losing you." It was good. And that's when he says, I also have a great loss, because his brother had passed away. And so they start kind of texting back and forth. And he says, I'm having a hard time feeling the holiday joy the people around me are feeling. Yeah. Well, she says that. And then he says, let the holiday memories into your heart. We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
And again, everybody has to be kind of on their own path, when it comes to these things. But I liked how they were trying at least to encourage each other through the text.
Yes. Yeah, and when she said that though to him, I was like, Susan.
Yeah.
Maybe Nicole should win a year for having the best holiday sweater, because I love how it's an ugly sweater party, but she's like, but the eyes and mouth are out of proportion. Like, no, it's not an ugly sweater. It's a gorgeous sweater. I want that sweater now, and I want a matching one for my dog.
Yeah,
like, let's go.
They were really cute, those sweaters.
I think at this point, are great.
Yeah, I think at this point, Susan's whole thing is sort of more of like a bit.
It is. Like at a certain point, you're just like, you have to perform, right? You have to go on stage and you have to perform.
Well, so then Joe is working at the house and he takes down the mistletoe and he immediately realizes, whoa, that touched a nerve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to be in the house, and that's the only thing that she can see on the outside of the house that Joe has done. And so she is not comfortable with him touching it. He doesn't realize. And I'm like, part of me is like, maybe he should be more observant or at least understand the situation. But I think he recognizes right away that it's a mistake, and I think she also recognizes that as well. It's not like he intended to do anything there, but it still doesn't mean it doesn't, bring back the memories.
Yeah. Those kind of icons of a relationship can be incredibly tough. It can be incredibly tough, but then they eat Joe and Nicole eat the casseroles together. So I'm curious.
She was like, he asked how many we ate. She said 15. And I was like, how long have you been eating those? To cook those in the oven? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's true. That is a lot of
3 times a Thanksgiving dinner. Like, no way. That's the one thing I was like, I can't buy into this part.
But what would be your go-to casserole?
I mean, I am a fan of macaroni and cheese. Like, let's do it. But here's the thing. Does it have cheese? Yes, then I'm in. So does it have noodles? Sure. Does it have rice? Fine. Does it have enchiladas in there with some cheese on there? Yum.
I love a casserole. A lot of them are too salty for me to eat now because I have to be pretty careful about my salt.
Yes.
But I love like a Mexican enchilada kind of casserole.
Oh, I wish I had the ingredients in my house right now to make that after we're done
Even
recording.
Just like chicken and rice kind of casserole. Those are so good.
But does it have cheese?
Yeah, that's true. Cheese usually does benefit.
Yeah, you can't, like, is there a casserole without cheese? Like, come on.
I mean, I technically made a casserole yesterday. I made stuffed shells. It was very,
but it had cheese.
It had cheese. I'm doing several kinds.
I'm doing a slow cooker recipe after this, which is like close enough.
Well, we find out that Joe and his brother would make spaghetti and meatballs for breakfast Christmas morning.
And breakfast?
I mean, but I kind of love that. I mean, there's some value in tradition, in having the traditional flavors, of whatever culture that your ethnic group or culture you're a part of. That's valuable too. But I also think it's really valuable to have those unique family traditions that only your family.
There aren't many families in this country that are like, we're going to have on Christmas morning meatballs and spaghetti. But here's the thing that I question is Joe, like, it's kind of like, why are you eating that for breakfast? But he gets really concerned when Nicole suggests him eating that peppermint bark cupcake for breakfast. And I was like, bro.
Well, that was only because she rejected all of his, he was like, I want to get fruitcake and then I want to get an apple cake or whatever.
You want to have a cupcake.
No. Oh, I should get the peppermint bark.
Yes, it sounded delicious, and I love cake and I love cupcakes, so I am on the Nicole train for this one. Like, toot toot, let's go, let's get some cupcakes. And then that would be right after a cookie crawl, of course. As anyone who's listened since the very beginning of me being on Hallmarkies, you know I love a cookie crawl. And now I love a cupcake for breakfast. Let's do it.
So then they have the ugly gift exchange party.
Yes.
And I appreciate that this was true white elephant gift exchange. Like, Hallmark doesn't always kind of get it, that they're supposed to be tacky.
Yeah.
But Joe brings this sign that says joy, and everybody loves it. And he says, and they say, "Welcome to our friend group, Joe."
Guess who wanted to steal it? Oh, Susan, you get the ugly sweater party. You don't get the white elephant gift.
I laughed when none of them knew the words to Good King Wenceslas, so they just like made it up. That was funny.
I was like, good. But true, like it's true though. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't know it either. I was like, that doesn't sound right, but whatever.
Well, after this party, she texts and says, "It was the first time in a long time I forgot about feeling sad," which is. And then, so she decorates. I don't understand what this tree was in the middle of like the field. I was a little confused about that.
Did she just walk by it? And here's the thing. Like, I was like, maybe I missed something in the buffering issue that I had, and so I was just like, I'll go with it. Sure. And so like
made for a nice look, but
I also like maybe it represents like that joy popping back in her life. And like, you know, there's like a moment when they're walking back and they're talking about everyone's decorations. I was like, does it go with that idea? That I didn't understand either. I thought I missed something, but hey, I like the idea of just walking by something every day and adding something to it and see how long it takes people to notice.
I loved the whole idea of the girl spa night with the Christmas facials. Because when you've seen as many Christmas movies as I have, it's hard to come up with something new. You know, it's like the same tree decorating, tree selecting, going ice skating, things like that. We've seen it a million times. This I have never seen before.
You're like, hey,
girls' night Christmas with Christmas facials. That was really fun.
And the different flavors. I thought it was cute. And also what I enjoyed about it. Now, I haven't seen as many Christmas movies as you. So, but I do understand your point. But also what I appreciate about the scene was that the friendship group, they were taking time just to spend time with each other, that it doesn't always have to be the full group. Like the guys might get together, the women might get together. Like,
that's a good point.
You know, so I kind of like that aspect of it as well. Like, let's have some alone time. But again, let's bring back Gail and Susan. I feel like there was some antics going on here that they were trying to get Nicole. Well, to get on, was he an orthodontist? There was some doctor guy. But then, or Joe.
Set her up.
Yeah. They're trying to set her up. And that's why I thought 1 year was too soon. Like, at the anniversary, I don't think Friends would push that.
That's fair.
I don't think it was like, you know, that was the intent or anything like that. It was more like funny or, you know, that sort of thing. But I kind of was like, maybe she doesn't want to date a doctor the year anniversary.
Yeah. Well, so then we have also her grandfather starting to date this woman named Helen. Helen's bringing over lunch. And I kind of liked the fact that she wasn't a baby about that. Like you might see sometimes. Yeah. She was just like, oh, okay.
But I did like how she hid behind things so that she could watch it. Like maybe she's just like the appreciating it from afar without getting in the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just thought that was cute.
Her and Grandpa exchange gifts. She makes him a sweater. He gives her grandma's cameo, which was very sweet.
Yeah.
It was so
very
sweet.
Cool.
And this is also when her sister says, the past 12 months, I haven't been able to stop worrying about you, which I loved that.
Yes.
So they're kind of they've been hanging out, Joe and Nicole, and she's about to go and meet him. Well, because she doesn't know it's him, but
yes,
she's about to go, and they have this moment outside the house, and he kisses her, and he says, she says, "What was that? A goodnight kiss? A goodnight kiss with a question mark?" Because that felt like a kiss without a question mark. I'm sorry. I thought since we were friends now that you would turn a question mark into an exclamation point. yeah, where are you going? To meet a friend. And he is just a friend, no question mark. That's great that you have friends. And I suggest that you should go meet a friend as well. It just so happens I am meeting a friend, exclamation point. Good. And then she kisses him.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to do that. You didn't mean to do that question mark, because that felt like 2 exclamation points. Say hi to your friend for me. Friend in quotation marks. This might be some of my favorite writing in a Hallmark movie I've ever seen. I thought this scene was brilliant, because how many times
funny.
So funny, so romantic, so sweet, but also true, because you think about things, not even just kissing, so many things in life you can do with an exclamation point or a question mark. So let's say I'm saying to you, Alysa, I started a new job today. That's with an exclamation point. You're like, oh, that's great. But if I'm like, Alysa, I started a new job today, that's with like a question mark. You're like, oh, are you insecure about it? What's going on?
Yeah.
You see? And I had never really heard it phrased that way. And I thought it was so good.
I like it because I think there's so much that we might go into afraid or with fear or uncertainty and anxiety, when maybe you just go in with the confidence. And
there's so many
difference
things
between a question mark and an exclamation point. However, I just thought like they were both awkward as heck in that scene, which I thought was hilarious. I was like, that was the weirdest like go in for a kiss ever. I was like, what? Excuse me,
but I think they're all the more charming.
Yes. No, I was like, what is happening? Yeah, no, that was a great scene. I did get ruined by buffering, and I was glad about it.
I mean, I liked it so much that when I was watching the movie, I rewound it back, and I recorded it on my phone so I could paste it as one of my Insta stories. I was just like, this is so great.
And then you were really sad when I was like, and the winner is not this one.
Yeah, that's right. You all voted wrong. This was the best moment.
Well, if I would have known, I could have vamped a little bit longer and been like, Rachel thinks y'all should have voted for this, but then I didn't know.
Well, and we haven't really talked about it, but I do think that Dylan, Bruce, and Tori DeVito had great chemistry. Yes. I mean, I guess we did a little bit when we said she had chemistry with both.
Yeah.
But they do. They have really effortless chemistry.
And that's the thing is, like, for me, going in, when I'm watching these, I go friendship first. To me, the romantic relationship is secondary, and they cross over, and, you know, you can't completely eliminate one from the other in a lot of these movies. But for me, do I actually want them to be together? And, like, I wanted them to be together. And I was like, you better get over the fact that he's the one who's texting you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, see, that's where we get to the one part that doesn't work for me about this movie is that I don't think it makes sense him not telling her. It doesn't. I mean, it makes sense because they need the movie to be a little bit longer. But as far as his character, I just don't think that it makes sense for him to keep that a secret. Why would he hadn't done anything wrong. He hadn't done anything.
I think telling her if he went into the restaurant and told her, and she would have been like, what? Like, there could have been some time for conflict there. But there's confusion, or there's other things that you could have had the same sort of moments they were trying to get with him not saying anything.
But there's no world in where she's not going to be more mad at him for keeping a secret.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just felt like that didn't make much sense. But again, not a deal breaker. It's the only reason why I didn't give this movie a perfect score. I was really close. I gave it I think a 4.75.
Wow.
Or 4.8, something like that. I gave it a very high score because I thought it was excellent. But I just didn't think that his sort of decision, not only to not tell her, but then to like move away, you know, it was a little, I thought it was
like, oh no, it's her. I have to leave.
Yeah. And she tells him,
go towards it.
She says, I would very much like to have you in my life. And she actually does the house tour.
Yeah. And then he leaves her. I was like, she saw like half a room. Do you want to show her the rest? Like, I was like, there's a whole upstairs. Maybe even 2 floors. I don't know. I don't remember.
But weren't you like proud of her? That was a big step for her. I was proud of her.
Yes.
And it just doesn't, especially as it keeps getting building and building and building, you're just like, just tell her what are you doing?
Yeah, and so that doesn't make sense for her that he leaves. And you know, one of the things is, one of the reasons why she's able to do it is because of that support from the text messages. So like, he's the reason why she's in that house. So like, own up to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Take credit.
I wrote down, she's right to be upset. He just left her there feeling alone and confused.
Yeah.
And she says, by not telling me the truth, he hurt me.
Yeah.
But then Teddy, who is also great, one of the friends, she sells the toy store to Teddy, starts her knitting store, and he says, you don't have to see the full staircase to take the first step.
Yeah, I love that line too.
That was a good line. And then also she said, he says, you never let it defeat you. You made me realize what true strength was. Mm-hmm. And good then stuff. He says, did he help you? The way I see it, you're a new person now. You're filled with life and joy again. So he must have said something right.
Yeah.
Almost all those conversations. So they meet at the tree. And he says, which guy are you? The one who leaves or the one who understands what I'm going through? And then he says, I want to live your best life with you. And she says, I don't know if I can trust you. I mean, I feel like that's a little bit of an overreaction to his one mistake. Like he's been honest to everything except for this one thing.
Yeah.
But she gets over it pretty quick, so it's not a big deal. And so she goes to the Christmas scavenger hunt. And I loved Alan. He says, we're all just stumbling through this life trying to figure things out.
You know, that's right.
And he says, everyone makes mistakes. Don't let that be the reason you give up on somebody. So good. And then she gets this mini model of her house. She's going to sell the house. And he says, you know, I wanted it to always be with you. Oh,
yeah, so that good. Was great. I was like, wait, I don't understand. They got her a mini version of her house, and then it was like, Joe made that for you. And I was like, oh my God.
So she would always remember the house when it's sold. And she goes up there, and he's put Christmas lights on the house, and it was really sweet. And she says, I'm not selling the house.
Darn
I was
right.
stuck, but then you came into my life and you showed me how to push forward.
And then one of my favorite parts of the movie, they go in for a kiss. Yeah. And what does he do?
He says, what's your rating on the kiss? She says 9.5. 9.5. She said, kiss me again and we'll make it a 10. So cute.
And also he pulls out
the mistletoe. Yeah, that's right.
Mistletoe. Although I was like, that's cool, but also, is that her thing with Henry? And I was like, oh, but she seemed okay. And I was like, oh, thank God. I had a slight moment of concern.
Yeah. Well, I just think this movie is very well written. I think it has a lot of dynamic characters, has great chemistry. I think it's moving. I think it's funny. I love the question mark and exclamation point scene. Yes. That is just so good.
I love all the friendship. More friendship.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah, and it has great friendship, really, and pretty fleshed out characters, considering they're not in the movie that much.
Yeah.
They do a good job. And so I just really enjoyed this film. Like I said, I almost gave it a perfect score. I think I might have even given like a 4.9. I gave it a really high score. So I'll have to look back onto that episode. But
I'll give it, because there was so much friendship. I haven't been able to rate the movie yet. I would give it probably a 4.75. It's been one of my favorites. And I just love so much friendship. Good stuff.
Well, let us know what you think of this movie. Is it a favorite of yours from last year? Where did you land on it? We'd love to hear in the comment section or on Twitter. And Alysa, where can people find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Dr. Alysa Lucas or Friends W Alysa on Twitter. And then I'm friends with Alysa on Gmail, the web, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and more as Friends with Alysa.
Yeah, and I'm going to be on her show, her podcast, talking about Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which is super fun. So make sure you check out that.
Absolutely.
And are subscribed. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. And also make sure you're following the Hallmarkies podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And we'll put a link in the description for all of our On Friendship episodes because you don't want to miss one of them. They're a lot of fun. And please, if you are listening to this episode on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews. 5 stars. It helps us so much. And also, if you are listening on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group and merch store. Check out all of that in the description. And thanks again. It's always so much fun, Alysa, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.
See you next month. Bye.